All right, so let's make a really quick motion graphics. Maybe make a sort of an intro to your vlog if you have a YouTube channel, like a logo kind of pops up or some kind of a thing that might work as a good title or even as a good sort of source of credits. So open up After Effects. Let's make a new project here, and we're going to immediately go to New Composition, and we'll just hit our new composition to be. You can go over here down to the HDTV 1080-25, which will give you like just the 1920 by 1080 canvas. You know, honestly, we could probably even go up to 30 here. It doesn't really matter. The idea simply is that we're going to make this into the widescreen normal HDTV kind of a thing here. The background color here, this is essentially what your transparency is going to look like. So if you want to make something that's sort of distinct from the background, anything that you make there is fine, so long as it's not the same. Like if I click on this color here, then I'm not going to be able to tell where my screen ends and like the sort of like, you know, workspace begins. So I tend to use something that's like a little more obvious. So I might even just choose like blue or something like that. But it's up to you what you want to do. As far as the length goes, the duration goes, we can make this about 15 seconds long. That's probably good enough. If you want to change the time, if it's something different from 15, make sure that you highlight whatever it is you want to change and type in 15, put a little semicolon with 2 zeros. If you just put the 15 at the very end without putting the 2 zeros at the end, it'll imagine that it's doing 15 frames, which at a frame rate of 15 frames a second will be like half a second long. So make sure that you're doing all that. All right, when that's done, press OK. And let's zoom out some by rolling on with the mouse wheel, and let's take a look and see what we've got around here. So I'm using the default layer here, the default workspace. So if you go to Window, Workspace, and find Default, and if you just hit Restore Default to save layers, then you know you'll have that. So I'm going to grab a rectangle tool. I'm going to hold the mouse button down on the rectangle tool and grab on the rounded rectangle, and I'm just going to draw a little rectangle here. And if I scroll down onto my rectangle, like the shape layer here, if I can click on this, which is shape layer 1, I can click this and rename this and call this rounded rectangle, right? And from there, I can actually go into the contents. If I don't see that, I could just, you know, hit this little button here and go to the contents, go to rectangle 1, go to rectangle 1 path, and then find right here size, position, roundness. In roundness, I'm going to increase the roundness to create sort of a more of a rounded effect. I might even round it as far as I can. And if I were to, say for instance, change the size, the roundness would stay the same. So I might just change the size to, say for instance, be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 1,000 pixels, or maybe even just like, you know, 350 in terms of its height. So just a 350 tall. That'll give us a good sort of idea. Once that's done, you can go over here. You can go to align, click on align, and just make sure it's aligned to the composition, and you can center to the composition. As far as the color goes, I'll just choose the color that, you know, speaks to you, whatever you want to do. In this case, I might just choose like white. So I might just bring this all the way up to the white, or maybe even something like red, and I can always change it later. But I'll just make it something really bold so that I can kind of wrap my brain around. That'll come to me later. I'm going to right-click on this, or actually I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go to Duplicate. I can hit Control-D on the keyboard. As far as this round rectangle goes, I'm going to go down to the contents in the rectangle 1 and rectangle 1 path, and I'm going to increase the size. I'm going to actually go from 350, and I'm going to multiply it by, hit the little asterisk here, and then maybe 1.5, make it 1.5 times bigger. Maybe even, yeah, that's probably fine. And I'll just click the fill, and I'll just make the fill, click the word fill up here. If you don't see this, once again, go to Window, Default, and then Restore Default. And actually, you know what, I'm going to take the stroke, put the stroke onto a solid color. And the stroke can stay the same color. I might pull it up to where I can see it better. And from here, I can actually just click off of the little chain here and just sort of shrink this down to where it's pretty consistent across both the top and bottom and left and right. It's going to resize to the center here. So at this point, I'm just going to show you if I can't make this into like a little bit of a border. All right, that's kind of fun. It looks about right. It looks about like it's about centered. Because we already had it centered, we don't really have to center it. But if we felt so inclined, we could always center it like this. Okay, so with that done, let's make a new text layer. So we have rounded rectangle and rectangle 2. We could even just, you know, call this like, if, you know, rename this into like rectangle outline. And then from here, we could even do a number here. We can just grab our grab both of these and hit P for position and make a little keyframe to have them both come up from the bottom and just have them rise up here. And we want this to be maybe half a second in length, maybe in a quarter of a second. So if it's 30 frames a second, a quarter of a second would be somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 frames, maybe 12 frames or so. And we could just hit a little position keyframe for both of these here. For the first one, the keyframe would be down at the very bottom, like that. Okay, and then I might even click off of these and click on rectangle outline and go over here to this moment right here in time, and then just have it sort of grow into being. So maybe like it just starts off with just this little pill shape, and then we sort of have the outline grow. So let's hit S for scale rather. Hit a keyframe here, and then just move over once again, like another few frames, like say for instance like 12 frames or so. So at this point I'm at 12, and then I can go over here to 24, and then I'll just increase this to have this be 100% here, and then just over here just shrink it up to 0. I'll just click 1 so it'll press the number 0. All right, so that way we sort of rise up, and then this sort of grows into being here. I might make it a little bit faster. Okay, and I'll just select all these things here. I'll click off everything and press U on the keyboard, and just make sure everything is selected so I can select all these things, right-click on them, keyframe assistant, and do easy ease, which will allow it to sort of, kind of come in and stop, right? And so we have that there. That's fun. You can finesse this and sort of think about, maybe I want this to start growing before we stop. Maybe I want this to kind of sort of come into being like right as we stop, and then this kind of comes there. Either way, just it's sort of up to you, whichever you want it to look like here. Okay, so as far as text goes, we're going to add some text. So let's make a layer, new text layer, and let's type in, say for instance, the whatever it is we're going for. So in this case, I'm going to say Mr. Oh, I have a weird font chosen here that I downloaded offline. I'll choose something simply rounded, like, I'll choose something pretty simple here. Now, this one right here, I think I downloaded online, simply rounded, but you can choose whatever font you like. So I'll just say Lobello Video Production. This is my production company here, right? Lobello Video Production. Now, in this case, I like the way this looks off to the side here, so you can just arrange it whichever way you want. Now, when you have these things, you can go over here to the side. Character will allow you to change the size of your font. Right, it'll allow you to change the space between the lines. It'll allow you to change even the space between the letters. Right, so here we have the font size, we have the leading, which is the space between the letters, and we have the tracking. Or the space between the lines is leading, space between the letters is tracking here. And then if we click off character, click onto paragraph, it'll allow us to either align this to the center or align this to the left. It'll allow us to indent things. Right, if I want to indent something, like maybe like indent one line a little bit. Could this in one way or the other. I mean, I think it probably works more like if you have like a text box that you already have the boundaries drawn out. At any rate, let's pull this up here to where we get this all kind of squared away here. I'll change the font color to white. So I'm going to go to character here and change this to white, and I'll center this. So we get to align, and I'll center this to the composition here, and I'll need to make this a bit smaller too. So I might even just go down here to P for position and just hit S for scale rather, and just shrink this down to say for instance like 84%, and double check that this is centered here. That's good. Okay, so we just have this fit in to where you have room on the top and the bottom and on the sides. I'm going to probably take the word video, and I'll just go to character and pull the tracking out a bit. So it matches up with production, and same thing with Lobello. I'll just sort of increase the tracking, say for instance to, let's try 100. Let's try 200. All right. Okay, there we go. So with that done, what we can do here is we can actually animate this by going over here to Effects and Presets. I'm going to save this real fast because Effects and Presets tends to make things go a little wild, so I'm going to name this Motion Graphics. And then we'll just go to Effects and Presets, and then let that load up for a second. Okay, and then we'll go to Animation Presets and find Presets, and then find our text. And let's have animate in, select all that, and then from there we can actually find several different things here. Now, in this case, I want you to just look through, and I want you to find something. For instance, slow fade on will give you these keyframes. I press U on the keyboard. Here, let's look here. U on the keyboard. I can see the keyframes are here. So this like kind of slow fades. Yeah, from here to here. So right, and it goes. And from there, you can actually go range selector. You can actually have the start and the end. You can determine, where it's going to go in terms of like, are we going to go to characters? Are we going to go to words? In this case, instead of going letter by letter, we go word by word. It's up to you, right? So with that done, I'll just I like that. That's really fine. And then that'll allow us to have that go word by word. I'm not sure if I actually like this. I'm actually going to get rid of this one. So I'll just click on the range selector here. Let's actually click on my okay, go here to my range selector. I'll just delete that, and that should. All right, just press undo a couple times until this goes away. All right, so I'll just press Control Z until it goes away. And I might even stretch each word. Let's look at this one. What does this do? All right, that's kind of fun. I like that. It's like a little bit, right? And so again, you can hit U on the keyboard, and it'll open up this this little selector here, right? And you can go to Advanced, and you can see, for instance, like maybe you can randomize the order. That's kind of fun, right? So you can find different things. So just go into the guts of all this, and you can kind of determine what you want. Now, last thing we do before we do anything else, let's click after this. They come into order here. What we'll do is we'll just go over here to once they arrive. So this is like 5 seconds in. We'll go over here to edit, and we'll go to split layer, and then from here, split layer. What we'll do is we'll see if we can't create a shall we say, sort of a track layer here. So essentially, I want to see through the letters to the space below. So here, I'm going to click off everything, press U on the keyboard one more time here. So I want this rectangle shape here. Let's go over to toggle switch mode here. Rounded rectangle here. I want this to mode track matte. I want a track matte to alpha matte. I want this to be the low layer. So I wonder if I could do like below video production here. I'm pretty sure I can go to track matte and do, maybe I can just bring this down to this layer here, and then maybe, here we go. There we go. All right, so I click over here to alpha inverted matte, and that will allow, so it'll go from here, and then we can see through it. Now, between those two, I want to say you could probably put a little fade here, but that's probably just good enough. All we really need to do right there is just have this go from here to here. And so now what will happen is this. I'm going to save this, and let's open up Premiere. And let's find ourselves some stock footage that you can put in the background. You can go to pixabay.com, and then you can download some stock footage, and then just place this on top of your stock footage, and then have it fade through. So once again, like 15 seconds long. So we'll do that. Okay, so I've got Premiere open here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here to my Pixabay. I just downloaded Pixabay. I've got my Soul City Street here. I'm going to drag that in, and I'll just have that be like the base of my Premiere project here. So that's just going to fly in through here. That's fantastic. And it's only about 6 seconds long, so it should be fine. And if I wanted to, I could even just like right click on this and go to speed duration, just sort of slow it down to 80% or so, and that'll give us, another like 2 seconds or so. And then so what we can do here is, 1 second, we'll just make sure we know where we save this. Let's just save as, and we'll just double check. This is under videos. That's fine. We'll save that. We'll go over here to our videos, and we'll find our motion graphics, and we'll just drag that in, and we could drag this into our import area here, and it's going to ask us what we want to drag in. So let me just come over here to our Premiere. Comp 1 is what I want to drag in. That's the only thing we've got. Comp 1, once again, press OK. And then I'll just drag this on top. And then right here we can just sort of see this sort of rise up. And then this comes in. And then we can see through it right there. That's cool, right? And so from there what we can do actually is we can Alt drag this here. Also, we could even, for instance, like right here between these two, just hit a little space between these two right here, to where we sort of fade from one to the other. It's easy just to go from here. Just hold down the, just drag these two together, make a little cut, and then go over here to our effects, and go to our video transitions. And go to dissolve and just cross dissolve between these two, and I'll make this a good deal shorter. So it goes from fades out. All right, cool. All right, now I'm gonna go. So this is a very dark video here. So I'm gonna make my my whole thing here, I'm going to make that white, so I'm just going to hover over all this stuff here and just nest this. And I'm going to make my logo white by going over here to, let's just type in color. I want to say you can change color, or change to color right here. And go to Effect Controls, change to, so from this red color to white. So, right. Maybe even to like there we go. Maybe even change it to something like a lighter green or something. All right. There we go. Cool. Now let me fade it out. Fun. All right, so we can kind of take a look at what this looks like here after all said and done. This comes in and then fades out. Very neat. Very cool. All right, cool. So that's a quick little thing here. So let's Control M. Let's submit this as an MP4 with whatever we got, and it shouldn't be medium bit rate. Shouldn't be very big, like 5 megabytes here. No sound. So export that. Turn that in. There you go. Very cool. Very cool motion graphic stuff. Can't wait to see you guys produce in class.